Hello everyone. Today what I'm going to be doing is going over my 2025 planner, as well as go over my process of finding how I set up my planner, and I'll be setting up my planner with you today. So without any delay, let's go ahead and get started. So my process for finding a planner started in 2022. Before then, I didn't really think that I needed a planner. I kind of consider myself someone who, I have lots of goals, I have lots of ideas, lots of projects, but I can fairly keep them focused in my mind over long periods of time. However, what I found when I was thinking about was that maybe what would really help me just really step up and be able to create more works of art and be there more for people, including myself, was a planner. So in 2023, I had decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and give planners another try. I had used them a little bit growing up, but I hadn't used them since then. So I was really approaching planners from the point of view of like, let's start over, let's try this again, and let's see what works for me. So for my 2023 planner, I found a couple things. I learned that having a small planner does not work for me. I do not like small planners. They're easy to lose. They are easy to forget about. I personally found that for me, with the way my brain works, I need a large planner, right? I don't like small planners for numerous reasons. One of them was that I would find that there wouldn't be enough space for me to write out what I wanted to do. I know that there's lots of people, they do huge, flowery, decorative planner elements, and that isn't really for me. Later on, you're going to see this, but in the next year's planner, I did try drawing and decorating. And I've tried drawing and decorating before. It doesn't work for me. I personally find that once I start decorating and illustrating my planner, I start judging it on is the illustration good? Now, if you saw my Grimoire ramble about my artistic process, you know that for the most part, most of the time, I do not judge my artwork on does it look good. I judge it on did it fulfill its purpose. But when it comes to illustrating your planner, for me, the goal is for it to look good. The goal is for it to be appeasing and pleasing to the eye. So I don't end up doing these grand illustrations in my planner, and I prefer to write everything out in full sentences. Sometimes I've seen people do plans where it's appointment, so APPT, name of a person, and then time, and that's it. I rather say lunch date with blank at this time with the name of the place that we will be eating at. Also, if I have a small planner, I find that on top of it, I get why people would use it to take it with them and go to places, but it's easy to lose, right? If it's easy to lose, I'm not going to be able to use it. The point of a planner is having it and helping you be more productive. And I have a lot of goals. I have lots of ideas, lots of plans. I need to be as productive as possible to get where I need to be, to get all these stuff done. And on top of that, I get that people use small planners to take them to places, but often what I find is that the way my brain works and the way I use planners is I set huge, lofty goals, and if I make any progress on them, if I get 50% of my yearly projects done, that's a good year. But if I don't, then I have to go back to it. So I self-reference a lot in my planners. I self-reference, what did I not do today? What did I not do last week? What were the monthly goals or the quarterly goals that I didn't get done? I also use my planners to take notes. I use it for just to hold my yearly reading, because I do a yearly reading as well. For, my 2023 and my 2024 planner, I did monthly readings, a yearly reading, and a quarterly reading. And what I've learned through the process of that as well, and that I will be taking forward in my 2025 year planner, is, going in depth and having a paragraph to 2 paragraphs per time period, it just doesn't work for me. I would be having like 2 to 3 paragraphs for, okay, this is May, and this is this quarter of the year, and this is the yearly thing for May. And it was so much information that like it ended up not being that useful or pertinent. So what I need in a planner is I need it to be large. I need it to be able for me to self-reference it without bulking up like a small planner would if you added your own tabs or bookmarks. And also I just didn't like the cover of the first planner, right? I was trying a new thing. I found a company. This was the witchiest planner that I could find, and it just didn't work out, you know? I saw this video of this neurodivergent cosplayer, and something that they said is that for them, what helped them when it came to organizing their craft room is that they realize if they were going to use something, they're going to find it. They're going to easily pull it out from wherever it is. The issue with the organization that they needed was it needed to be easier to put the art supplies back. So my process as a planner was hacking my own brain and saying what works for me, what doesn't work for me. And it's easy for me to, if I have a planner, to pull it out. But for me to be successful, I need to make sure that not only is it easy to pull out, but it fits all of the neurodivergent check marks for me. Similarly to the way that cosplayer explained how they decorated and organized their cosplay room, which I'm going to link down below just in case you're interested in seeing how they organized their craft room. But for me, the planner has to be big and it has to have a cover that I find attractive, that I find beautiful, that it helps if, you know, for you may want to consider having a cover that you custom print to fit with a hyperfixation, for example, or your favorite sports team, or just something that aesthetically, you know, you enjoy looking at your planner, so your brain automatically wants to look at it. And if you're looking at your planner, you might as well open it and then use it. For 2024, I tried using sentences of the year. So previously in years past, I've used words of the year. I know some people use the typical words like voice, king or queen, power, growth, opportunity. But my goals for 2024, and I had the words in the front of the cover, is factum din sol. So that's Latin for out in the sun. Because my goals were, I had been making art for so long and I wasn't sharing it. So my goal for 2024 was really push the envelope in the scheme of showing up my artwork, showing up to the table, telling people about myself, and having some expression of voice, I guess you could say, to the extent of actually participating inside of my community instead of being like on the outskirts, sort of a lurker. There's nothing wrong with being a lurker. It's just that was my goal for 2024. I have lots of goals, and it kind of hinges on me marketing myself or showing myself to at least some degree. Because what I found was, you know, I have all those ideas of all these I want to work on, like my quarterly goals, and I end up reaching them. I end up making decks. I end up making, you know, finalized art projects or revamps of old projects. I end up making them, but I don't end up sharing them. And that's part of the project. That's part of the process. If you want to be an artist, you kind of have to share the art that you make, at least to some extent. So for me, another change that happened between my 2023 and my 2024 planners was, on top of making this custom, beautiful collage cover that I personally found myself attracted to, which was a reference, as references to some of the books I was reading at that time, I had also purchased a Benebell planner. So Benebell Wen, if you know her, you know her. If you don't, I highly suggest you look into her. She is, I guess you could say, a content creator within like the witchcraft, the pagan, the alternative spirituality community. She is the creator of the Spirit Keepers Tarot deck 1, 2, and 3 edition. She has written many books such as I Ching the Oracle, The Tao of Craft, and The Holistic Tarot. And on a more personal note, on top of being a lawyer, she also has multiple different courses that go highly in depth about multiple different projects. If you look at her website, I'm gonna link it down below. She has an introduction about her and all the work that she does, but she also has plenty of free resources online, and that's something I really appreciate about Benebell Wen. So obviously, to be who Benebell Wen is as a person, she has to be highly organized to be so highly productive and highly prolific. So for her, all these mechanics within the planner itself that I'm showing off right now, they really do work for her. I'm mostly just showing off the elements that, if I'm going to be quite frank and honest, they don't normally work for me. But if you were to be interested in using her planners going forward, this might be something that you are interested in. So she has an entire section for your quarterly goals. But what I'm showing off right now is that not only does she have a monthly section for you to write your daily tarot card pull every single day and have just at a glance your monthly section for you to look at, but she also has a section for every single day of the month and what sign each of the planetary, the huge planetary symbols are in, So what sign the sun is in, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, And part of the process is you can buy another booklet for her where it expresses, what does it mean for you for Mercury to be in this sign or Venus to be in this sign? And you can even, part of the process is you get a solar return chart, and you can even compare that to see, oh, for this year, for 2025, my Mercury is actually directly in opposition towards me for this month to that month. And that's something that you can highly tune and specify. Not to literally control your life, but just something that you can use to your advantage. I personally didn't use that for 2024. As you can see, the sections that you can buy for a planner, because Benebell Wen does offer multiple sizes. I do believe this is the largest size. It's plenty of space. It's plenty of space if you are like me and you prefer to fully write out the entire sentences of everything that you want to do. What you're seeing right now is that I'm going through all of the different sections that I would write in for my day-to-day and showing you that there are times where I do take week or weeks long breaks, and there's also times where I have, these are the 7 things I want to get done today, and I get 1 done, or I get 6 done. And I'm perfectly okay with saying that. I have goals that I allow myself to push to the next week or the next week or the next week over. I don't want to participate in, any level of unhealthy hustle culture of you need to be productive at all times for all people and be consistently within reach, and you need to be working every single day. That's not my goal. The way that I do so much stuff is that I personally have multiple art projects that personally for me I do find refilling. What I'm showing off right now is that Benebell Wen's planner has multiple different sections where she has notes for different forms of divination or occult practices, and she even has a note section for you to write down your own notes. Previously, I showed the section where you would put daily tarot readings, and I just don't do daily tarot readings. The reason why is that for me personally, if I'm going to do a reading, I really want the most from it. I want that reading to be juicy. I want it to be full of details. I want to get to the heart of the matter, I don't want what is today? Oh, the 2 of Pentacles. It's for balance, I want to fully understand and comprehend the issues at hand if I'm working on anything. So I usually do readings that are, if I am going to do it, multiple cards per reading. so a full spread, and then preferably, maybe a paragraph or two for each card, and that's just to fully understand whatever I'm working on. And I personally enjoy the note section in the back that Benebell one includes, so that's where I would keep it. But if I'm doing like readings for every single day, it doesn't make sense for me as a person, at least for the way that I read in divination and the way that I use my different forms of divination, whether it be like tarot decks, oracle decks, coins, runes, etc. And as you can see, the Benebell's ones planners, they're big enough for me to take cardstock, cut it out, and then tape it on the border or the perimeter of the book, and to create my own tabs. So it allows me to be self-referential in a way that, for me as a creative person, I highly enjoy, and that's something I highly appreciate. If I have to turn to every single page, it just doesn't going to work out for me. Something that I appreciated with the 2023 planner was that there was like one ribbon that I could use for whatever day I was on. But what happens if I lose it? What happens if I need to reference a different page? That flipping of the page hinders me, at least for me. It distracts me, and it makes it harder for me to use a planner. I would prefer if I could just immediately turn to whatever page that I'm working on. And getting the bigger planner is really only like part of the solution for me. A temporary bookmark where it doesn't slip in, but actually folds over the page is what I found works best for me. So while I just should have, the back pocket where I keep some coloring book spells that I personally enjoy and use as sort of like miniature words of the year, I want to keep in mind that I personally enjoy using the same images again and again and again. And I use the same coloring book image that I use in the back as a talisman as basically like my bookmark for the day. My bookmark to keep me track of where I am. So just to wrap it up and bring you back to where we are before we get to the 2025 planner, here's what I've learned. I need a planner. It needs to be big. It needs to be beautiful in the way that I like the cover. And I need multiple tabs so I can self-reference. I like it to have plenty of information, plenty of details for me to look at, such as like runes, Lenormand, tarot, astrology, etc., because I can be very scatterbrained at some times. Plenty of space for me to write out every single thing that I want to do. Preferably, and this is what I've learned so far with the newest planner, of a thicker paper so that I can write on it with pen instead of pencil, so I don't have to worry about it bleeding through too heavily. And also a more recent development that I've learned is that I would like for it to be able to hold ink as stamps as well, because I'm not showing it right now, but I am currently using stamps within my planner as well. And at the end of the day, and I can share this later, but I don't use these planners just once for the year and that's it. I'm actively using the 2023 planner as sort of an abstract collage book itself, as a sketchbook for collaging, similarly to how I described previously in my last Grimoire Ramble. But honestly, that's it. That's all I've learned so far. It's just that, I have to be very particular in making my planner fit a certain function of how I personally work, as a person, as an artist. And with that, I'm showing off the artwork of the past year. Well, the reason why is because what you're going to see is for this next planner, for this next year, there is a huge shift in the energies that I'm trying to work with for my 2025 planner. So for 2024, my phrase was Factum de Sol for Out in the Sun. And for 2025, what I'm going to be going for is Pride and Dignity. Sort of opposite energies, at least aesthetically, art-wise, from the previous year. So the last year, it was very Queen of Swords energy. It was I'm gonna be on the sun, the truth is the truth. If you don't like it, oh well. I'm putting it out there. Whereas this energy is much more, I guess you could say, Queen of Pentacles, abundance, creativity, showing off with pride and happiness. This is exactly who I am, and I'm not ashamed to say it. Or this is exactly what I believe in. This is exactly what I think, and I'm not ashamed to say, this is what I think, this is what I believe in, this is what is worth fighting for. And honestly, all my works of art, even the ones where I am showing off that this is about development, this isn't about perfection of the art, this is about developmental progress of the artist and the art itself, it's still working towards a larger goal. And that's what I feel like a lot of this, personally for me, this planner of 2025 is for. I have different projects that I want to get done, and I'm using the planner not just as a spiritual vision board to help manifest it, but I'm also using the creation of the vision board as kind of like artistic push-ups to get me to where I want to be. At least in this case with like digital collage skills. So I have my own artwork in here. I have planetary magic of Pluto and solar energy because, I love Pluto. I love Plutonian magic. I have a statue from the Statue of David, as well as photos from, I guess you could say, current and past ancestors who were showing off for fun and attention. I have this beautiful, illustrious garden scene. So there is this semblance of, I'm with family, I am with close ancestors, I'm with the people who came before me, and I'm still able to create and be abundant and still maintain that level of privacy that me as a person, I personally enjoy and thrive under. And as above, so below, it's just happiness, it's just pride. Both pride in the sense of pride of who we are, where we come from, but also pride in, I did this. I made this thing. I worked on this. And I'm proud to say that I did this. I'm attaching my name to this with a sense of pride. And I guess dignity just in the sense of like reeling it back in. Reeling it in so it's not unmarked, unchecked pride, but having some level of composure when speaking about myself, when speaking about my work, and the ideas that I personally believe in. I have goals for 2025, but what good is it if I work on, like, let's just say, speaking in a way that sharpens my tongue so that my words have like a razor sharp edge? What good is that if I can't even form a coherent sentence or complete a strong rhetorical argument? I want my opinions and my works of art and myself, just everything about it, to be with some level of dignity and composure and humility. What you're seeing now as I am talking to you is the process of me making my own temporary bookmark. Every year, on top of creating, my word or sentence of the year, I also like to create a talisman or a charm of some sorts. And in the past, it's just been a standalone talisman. It's been a standalone charm. Last year, I tried incorporating my ideas or my beliefs within the talisman or charm as sort of the temporary bookmark to carry it through. So like, I didn't believe that I was like fully out in the sun, but I believed that I was working towards it. So there's a space of like liminality. This year, I'm using all of these mixed media art supplies around me, and I'm using a coloring book spell page I made for weird artwork and weird magic. And I'm using it as a daily talisman reminder just to create, not worry about, is the artwork that I am making something that is fully understandable and translatable to the experience of everyone around me. Instead, these are my ideas, these are my beliefs, these are things that I'm trying to express from the innermost point of who I am as a person. Can I allow myself to be a little bit unconventional, a little bit weird, a little bit cringy, a little bit different? Can I allow myself to breathe in an avenue that is unique to who I am within the experience of like trying to aid the community around me. And I find that for me, what I kept coming back to is allowing myself to make and show weird artwork, weird magic, weird, not just in like the different point of view, but also the point in anthropology and historically speaking, where weird as a word came from, where it meant unique, one of a kind, different. Can I allow myself to care about my community and also show up, not ashamed or pressured or FOMO'd to the point of losing authenticity, and still allow, I guess, my artwork and my point of view to have some bite. I'm attaching to the top and bottom these handmade grungy stamps I made for Pluto and for Chiron. And I'm using the same technique you would use in magazines for like 90s grunge artwork, where it came to be, I guess you could say, patchwork maybe, but specifically like heists, where you would cut out magazine letters and then write out what you wanted to say, just as a reminder for me to show them weird, show them different, show them, and by them I mean like generally the world at large, show them something that exists within you as an individual or as a creative, and be it something that helps the people around you, but also at the same time not have it this thing where it's about replicating the people around you. It's about replicating being the exact same people as the people around you. Because honestly, I don't really believe that, how can I phrase this, that your sense of individualism is inherently tied to not caring about the people around you. You can be individualistic. You can understand who you are as an individual and your needs as an individual, while also caring about the people around you in your community. We need individual solutions and individual points of view. And that's what I am trying to emphasize so heavily with, I guess you could say, just like my bookmark, my daily bookmark for every single day. And as dirty and grungy as it is with all these different astrological and color and mixed media correspondences I'm adding, I'm allowing this to be antagonistic, I guess you could say, to like my previous argument about not decorating and illustrating these huge elaborate works of art for your grimoire, or not your grimoire, but your planner. I'm allowing this bookmark to be the one and only like point of focus, of attraction, of beauty, of, I guess, planner illustration. After I've done that, after I picked out the right washi tape with floral and growth and just abundant illustrations, and I did all the correspondences and all that hard work of just one permanent form of artwork that I'm going to use every single day. And then after this year, I can still use every single day if I wanted to in a different format. And then I'm going to work on creating my own tabs for my 2025 planner. I've allowed myself to go ahead and cut out my reading of the year and then tape it in. But I need to have those main points of self-referencing that I like to use a lot. So that is the quarterly section where I have my quarterly goals. It is that section in the back where I can have my own notes or my own readings that are pertinent to the entire year. It is the Lenormand section, and it is the rune section. The rune section and the Lenormand section are in the back section, where there's tons of different notes about different, astrological symbols, palmistry, etc., etc. But they're at two different points of that section where it's easier for me to, cut it in half and find the first half, or the back half is just easier to navigate. I'm cutting it basically into fourths, and I'm having the first section at the fourth section, and then the second one at the 3/4 section, if that makes sense. Because again, I do not particularly like flipping through pages. I know it's really weird, but I rather just get to the page that I need as quickly as possible and then just go from there, So Now that I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and pull out my planner from last year, or the one I'm currently using. I'm going to compare my personal goals for 2025 with the quarterly and yearly goal section of the new planner. So I actually have a lot of goals that I was considering for 2025 because, again, I like to overshoot. I like to set my goals really, really high, sometimes maybe even like unbelievably high. And if I do 50%, if I do like half of my goals, it's a win. 75% of my goals is a great year, a really good year where I got a lot of stuff done. But I'm looking at my goals for next year, and I'm noticing that the one thing that I personally didn't like was like how small the bookmark was, the Talisman bookmark for 2024 is. And I'm happy that this one turned out the way it did, and it was much bigger and larger than the other one. And I'll show it later, but something that I really want to note is all this came from trash. All I used from this was trash. When I had tried to sell the Abstract Heart Oracle all those years ago, I actually ended up with plenty of misprints, and that deeply upsetted me. But I had kept those cards and used those cards now to create this Talisman of Hope and Vulnerability on top of as another layer of magic with this show them weird mentality. So back to what I was saying, I'm looking at all the art projects that I'm thinking about doing for 2025. And honestly, there's just a lot. I counted, and outside of like the big project, there's 10 projects. There's no way, that I can get all 10 of these done. But I think I can narrow it down to just around 4 or 5 projects, including like my big yearly project. Which, like, I know, Art Witch, but hear me out. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I had decided that I wanted to work on for the next year. As sort of, I guess you could say, a public showing of the ideas of what you can expect, but also just for you to hold me accountable if you wanted to. If you want to say like, hey, you said that you were going to work on XYZ thing. What happened? Because like generally for me, artistic ideas, they do change, but they don't change to the extent of, okay, this project is not a project that's going to be done anymore. So for the first quarter, my main goal is I want to finish this Maximalist Marseille. I know I was talking about it before. The thing is like sometimes with artistic projects, I just, it just feels so much work to get done, when in reality, it's not. It's not that much work. It's just that there's such a huge motivation to not work on a project and to work on prettier, shinier ideas. And I need to get this project done. So even though this deck project is almost done, I'm giving myself the first quarter just to finish it. And you're going to see this with like the second quarter. I'm giving myself an easier project for the first and second quarter, knowing that it's easier to get done. But if I finish those projects ahead of time and ahead of schedule, that leaves me 3 to 6 months, case depending, to work on any of the other quarterly goals, as well as catch up to any of the work I wanted to get done. It's sort of me saying, the first half of 2025, let's take it easy. Let's take a deep breath. You have 20 cards to work on, and they don't take you that long. You have 3 months to get that done. So for 2025, the Maximalist Marseille. For my second quarter, it's a secret tarot deck that I know the name of, I have the full idea of, I have half of all the artwork done, and I'm not going to tell you. I'm just going to write FF Tarot. What I will say, as a sort of hint, is that of the 4 quarterly projects of 2025, I've selected 4 that each of them are projects in their own mind, but they also help me grow and develop in different artistic skills. So the Maximalist Marseille is about digital collage skills. The FF Tarot is going to be about me working on my digital illustration skills, and that's the only clue that you're going to get about that deck. For my third quarter is the Eclipse Tarot. So giving myself, 4 tarot decks to make in 1 year sounds like a lot, but personal process of working with ideas, just to remind you, is that the first 2 projects for 2025 are easy projects. They're also almost done. They're over the 50% work. And on top of that, when I personally have an idea, as such on the last Grimoire Ramble, is I have the idea and I write down everything about the idea. I fully explain all the different elements and moving parts and rhetoric and arguments and everything about it. And I know that for the third quarter of 2025 with the Eclipse Tarot, I personally know that this deck is I've fully fleshed it out. I have an idea. It's not going to be that hard to make. It's me working on more of my physical illustration skills. And with that, on top of that, it's not even photorealistic. It's more of a certain style that I wanted to work with, that I wanted to have fun with. So for the third quarter, for a project that, to be completely honest, I know is going to be really fun and really easy for me to make, it's just another cherry on top of a Sunday treat for myself that I'm giving. So far, I'm giving myself 3 different deck projects. One's an argument. One is just... Actually, no, 2 of them are arguments. And then the third one is just another thing where I'm just taking it easy. It doesn't get hard until the 4th quarter and then the overall project for the full year. So I know for the 4th quarter, I'm giving myself a full year to collect ephemera, to collect paper and bits and bobs and nonsense and this and that for a sort of mixed media analog collage. And I want this to be a black and white mystery collage tarot deck, meaning I'm not going to share anything about the name or the process of it, besides that I'm sharing that it's going to be black and white and it's going to be collage. The hard part for me is going to be about collecting all the resources and gathering them all together in one point and one place for me. And I'm playing with different themes and different ideas of how I want to juxtapose all of these different points of views into one tarot deck. Because a lot of times I see people who make tarot decks and their goal is, I want to make a deck and that's it. We've been over this. My decks, I personally feel are an argument or a question or an idea I want to expand upon. And this one, as the 4th project, is actually a treat in a way of that it's not just an idea, but it's also an expression or an archetype that I want to pull into the now, call into the now, sort of as 78 or 79 different vision boards to pull into an archetype or a persona or an energy now. I want to bring that in now and giving myself an entire year of fun, easy, expressive projects just to build up the energy of this deck. This is the big, heavy project for me on top of the yearly project. Because honestly, the yearly project is, and this is going to sound, out of nowhere for an art witch, but it's a board game. I want to make a board game. I had an idea for a board game for a couple of years, and I just want to create it. I want to bring it into the now. So I'm giving myself an entire year to make a board game. The goal for it is that I'll get my first prototype by quarter 3, but I honestly think I'm going to have it probably ordered before quarter 2 is done, and that'll give me 2 quarters, so around 3 to 6 months of playtesting this board game, having fun with it, inviting friends over, showing it off, just to fully develop it and make sure that there's nothing wrong with the game balance of the board game. And while I'm still talking about this page of the first quarterly plan, since this section I spent the entire time talking about like my quarterly goals. And the quarterly section for Benebell's planner for 2025 strictly talks about your goals and your plans per quarter, every quarter, minus the first page. The first page has like the overall, what's your entire project here. So what I'm thinking about for my first quarter is I want to set healthier working out goals for myself, of working out maybe once a week as compared to my none at all. I also want to start taking more of an initiative in having artist dates. If you don't know, artist dates is this idea written in The Artist's Way from Julia Cameron, where she proposes that you as an artist, what you personally find enjoyable is something that should be treated and celebrated, and you should allow yourself to get in contact with the quote-unquote inner artist through these artist dates where you take your artist out on a date on different things that you enjoy. And I haven't done that in a while, and considering that I got sick recently, I think now would be the best time to go back and introduce that. And on top of that, I was thinking about, on top of like my every now and then collage that I'm doing that are sort of abstract and Dada-esque, I'm thinking about, what if I do The Artist's Way again? And I also do Walking in This World and Finding Water, which is like the trio of Julia Cameron books. And what I could do, since I have like easier projects, is I could do The Artist's Way for quarter one, and then Walking in This World for quarter two, and Finding Water for quarter three, just as like a fun, cool idea for myself. I know that I've told people in the past that The Artist's Way, I didn't get a lot out of it, but I think part of it could have been my expectation. What's that saying? Like, expectations or future set disappointments. So I'm thinking, what if I approach the first book again? And if not, if I don't get anything from it, it would be nice just to get back into some semblance of a daily journaling habit. Callie-Ann Maddox is like a huge proponent of journaling and journaling. I don't think they talk about journaling every day, but journaling consistently. And I have had journals in the past, and the most in-depth I got from it was the morning pages from The Artist's Way. In-depth being like the most I've written consecutively day after day. And I'm thinking, what if I just do The Artist's Way as kind of just a branch back into journaling, and then continue that with the other two books? I mean, for me personally, The Artist's Way, something that I did get out of it is that there's this whole chapter where it's like, this is the moment, this is the hour, you're going to find that people go out of your way this week to give you resources and art supplies. And I'm going to be honest, out of nowhere, someone did reach out to me and just give me an entire stack of art supplies. So I'm thinking, even if it's just to go through this week again, just for that, I think it might be interesting, especially as a form of comparison of, I didn't really get that much the first time. Am I going to get anything out the second time? And how much have I changed from first attempt to second attempt? Other than that monologue right there, I would like to, because the way Benebell one sets it up is like there's elemental sections for you to write your quarterly goals. There's a section for growth and innovation, which is about setting goals when it comes to reading, writing, mental stimulation, sharing in community, or skill building expansion as like a keyword. And I would like to do weekly or bi-weekly graphic design lessons. So recently I've learned how to take colored photographs or colored photos and edit them in a way that it makes it look like it's been distressed, as if it's been like Xeroxed multiple times. I am a huge proponent of like, if you could learn something, why don't you, right? It could be fun to learn something new and just expand your point of view in different ways. And I think that's something I'm going to take into going forward. And then for the second quarter, I started multiple times, and I get it. but I think it's time that I finish the Personal MBA, which is self-describing as the best-selling book that gives you everything you need to transform your business and your career. An MBA at a top business school is an enormous investment in time and cash, and if you don't want to work for a consulting firm or an investment bank, the chances are it simply isn't worth it. The Personal MBA gives you simple mental models for every subject that's key to commercial success, from the basics of products and marketing to the nuances of teamwork and systems. This book distills everything you need to know to take on the MBA graduates and win. This book has been, personally for me, highly on my list of just books to read and finish through. And as I'm trying to get back into reading, I'm finding that my reading goals were a bit unrealistic and they weren't suited to me and the way my brain works. So I want to include my reading goals for 2025 and update it, renovate it in a way that makes sense, that actually fits with my brain. Because, I'm still getting into planners. This is a process. It's not perfection that we're looking for. And just to expand on reading and reading goals, I had a very unhealthy, unreasonable goal for 2024. Now, I know I said I like to set high goals and high expectations, but that doesn't mean that I need to set unrealistic goals and unrealistic expectations, And I caught myself, this is, a foot in the mouth situation where I set goals that weren't realistic, that were unhealthy for me. So for me personally, I had set a goal, I think, of reading a single book a week. And going from not reading to reading every single day, all day, it's just not possible, So as I'm getting back into reading, I'm implementing audiobooks as something that I'm allowing myself to do. And I'm starting with allowing myself to go back and read books that I read growing up, books or series that I had enjoyed, that I had treasured, that I want to get back into and maybe finish the series or step back through that point of nostalgia, not expecting the same reaction, but just sort of oh wow, for better or worse, this is what was being thrown down thematically that I didn't get. So for example, the movie The Iron Giant for me personally has a lot of symbolism and importance, specifically in the patriarchy and the symbols of violence that is perpetuated within this world. I enjoy The Iron Giant, for example, as a symbol of how the patriarchy hurts men and why men really need to work against the patriarchy in a form that, obviously men should care about women and obviously they should fight against the patriarchy, but they should see that this system that is so self-aggrandizing doesn't just perpetuate violence against women and children. It's also a system that perpetuates violence against men themselves. And they need to see themselves as not just weapons and part of the oppression to be given to others, but also people that get oppressed on themselves. And that's what The Iron Giant as a children's movie I really enjoy, and I really want to go back to these younger forms of fiction and literature and reading and glean anything I can. So right now I'm reading Pendragon, Book 1, The Merchant of Death by DJ McHale. And from my understanding, in retrospect, this is sort of a children's science fiction book, and I'm excited to see where that specifically leads. I wouldn't mind also just slowing down and getting back into poetry, and poetry as something that is leisurely to enjoy instead of for me as a poet, I need to read these poems and digest it and incorporate it and develop it so that I can use it in my own language. Instead of approaching it from the point of view of I am quote unquote an artist who needs to copy and paste these same skills within my own work, just more of oh, I can enjoy these. I can mull it over, if that makes sense. Because sometimes I watch stuff planner videos or artistic videos and I catch myself not appreciating it or enjoying it. I see it as a form of competition sometimes. And I think a lot of people do this. They see planners online and they say, my planner, it needs to be beautiful. It needs to be illustrated. It needs to make me feel like I am an adventurer in an RPG. And, maybe for you that works, but maybe for you, that isn't how it works. I can only speak for myself. I've tried Habatica, which is this app to make you finish and start habits using, this fantasy, otherworld, like Renaissance fair idea. And it didn't work for me. I'm trying to use these planners to see what works the best with me. And what I found is that, obviously, like I said multiple times before, a big planner is great. An aesthetic cover is great. And when I'm watching these videos, I need to keep that in mind, reading poems, this is for fun. Watching these planner videos, this is for fun. This isn't aspirational to the point of, if I do not look like I'm crawling through dungeons, this isn't good for me. I mean, at least for me. Maybe for you, this is helpful. Maybe for you, you do want to have this experience that you're traversing great and mysterious lands, For me, it's just about getting all the ideas out in a way that makes sense and letting me come back to the same ideas again and again and again as sort of, I guess, a poem, a poem of, I didn't get this done, and these are the recurring themes of my life of work that I'm not getting done. So therefore, I need to add XYZ factor into my life to make it easier to get those things done. The problem isn't, getting into the planner. It's getting back to the planner. Is the planner big enough for me to see and get back to? Is the cover attractive enough that I'll look at it for longer than a second and then go, oh wait, that's my planner, It's about making it as easy as possible for me to use the planner and as easy as possible to find the page that I'm looking for as possible. Otherwise, everything else is just a distraction, Everything else from, did I use the right washi tape, to the right markers and the right pens? For me, I just find that it's a distraction, I hate it. I hate to say it, but for me, it's just a distraction. And if it's a distraction for me here, I'm looking at the pens, I'm looking at the washi tape, I'm looking at that getting done rather than the planner and getting stuff done. So I hope that helps. I hope you enjoyed being with me as I set up my planner for 2025, as I highlighted the different decks and the different sections for my yearly reading, as I made my tabs and my daily bookmark. Please comment down below, of course, if you're reading any books or if you suggest any books from me. I would love to hear what you're reading. And I guess like, comment, subscribe, and all that. Thank you so much, and bye for now. Bye.